Jilly is a smartass high schooler who just wants to play some VR games with his baddie girlfriend. But Thunderkun has other plans and strikes him faster than he can even log in. That's how he ends up inside the very same game he was about to play. At first, he dreams that he instantly becomes OP and saves his girlfriend from some bad guys. He's even about to get a kiss, but nope, it's just a dream. In reality, he wakes up from a deep slumber in the middle of a desert that stretches empty for miles. He was supposed to arrive at the beginner's village, yet for some unknown reason, he finds himself stranded in a scorching desert. Because of the heat, the air feels heavy, and his body already starts to ache. Thinking that he needs to contact Xiaomei first, he quickly types in her username, but the database gives him an error. The confusion deepens because he knows he could never forget something Xiaomei told him. He tries again and again, but when nothing works, he decides to head for the village himself. He starts walking across the desert, not knowing which direction he is taking. However, time passes, and he realizes that no matter what he does, he cannot escape the desert. The unbearable heat makes him pant heavily, and because he is sweating so much, he realizes he will soon be dehydrated. He tries reaching customer service for help, but even that fails, and his frustration grows. As his anger rises, he decides that enough is enough and that he wants to leave the game. He presses the logout option, yet for some reason the system denies his request. A sense of doom falls over him as the truth sinks in that no matter how hard he tries, he cannot exit the game. He keeps pressing the button over and over again until the system freezes and resets. When the screen reappears, the game delivers a new message that orders him to survive for infinite hours. Realizing that he is trapped in the game, Jilly falls to the ground in desperation. The poor boy only wanted to impress his crush, yet because of one simple choice, he now finds himself stuck in a desert with no way out and no way to contact anyone. 8 long hours pass before he finally stops feeling sorry for himself. Accepting the reality of his situation, he decides that if he wants to survive in this deadly game, he must act. His first goal is to find water because his throat feels dry and his strength is fading. He picks up a stone from the ground and immediately recognizes that this type of stone usually appears near sources of water. Because of that clue, he begins following its trail with growing determination, unaware that a hungry wolf has started tracking him as its next meal. After a long and tiring walk, he reaches a cave and spots a shiny droplet of water falling into a bowl. His prayers feel answered, and he rushes toward it, drinking as if his life depends on it. When he is finally satisfied, he collapses on the ground, breathing heavily, and begins planning his next move. He opens his inventory and realizes that the map only shows areas he has already explored, which means he cannot see the entire world. When he checks his status, he discovers that because he is a new player, all of his attributes are low and he has no offensive skills. This means that if a strong monster attacks, he can do nothing but run and hope to survive. Determined to prepare, he opens his equipment menu and puts on his basic gear. Then he takes out his gigantic sword and starts swinging it to get used to its weight and balance. The blade is so sharp that it easily cuts through a stone, which gives him a little confidence. Just as he prepares to leave the cave to hunt, a strange noise echoes from behind him. The sound makes him freeze because it means he is not alone. He cautiously walks deeper into the cave to investigate, until he stumbles upon a bone. As he raises his gaze, he realizes with horror that there is an entire pile of skeletons stretching before him. Any sensible person would run at this point. But because Jilly's survival instincts are underdeveloped, he stays and examines the bones instead. He studies the bite marks carefully and soon recognizes that they belong to a wolf. The realization hits him like a shock, and he finally starts running. But it is already too late. The wolf leaps through the air, jaws wide open, ready to strike. Jilly ducks at the very last moment, narrowly escaping, but the monster still manages to tear into his forearm. The creature turns out to be a desert wolf, a level 5 threat with high stamina that can sprint up to 15 km per hour. Because running will only delay the inevitable, Jilly understands that he must fight. Gripping his sword tightly, he forces himself into battle mode, determined not to die before he earns that long-awaited date with Xiaomei. Back in the real world, Jilly was his city's youngest 6th Dan practitioner. He learned kendo because his mother was obsessed with it and was a die-hard fan of the kendo star, Mu Chun-ya. So she signed him up for classes. And that's how Jilly found himself in front of a kendo teacher. There he realized that he had a fear of his enemy because he was weak, so he started to practice, not caring about the weather or time. He was defeated, humiliated, and got injured, but he never stopped until he became the best practitioner. And even then, he continued his training because he knew from an early age that only the strong survive in the world. In virtual reality, the wolf attacks Jilly again, and he ducks, all while attacking it with his sword. But the blade recoils and does no damage to the monster. Instead, the wolf then uses its tail to hit Jilly, who flies across the room. He is confused about why his attacks are not doing any damage. And then he realizes that because of his lower rank, he cannot do much damage anyway. Instead, he needs to aim for the wolf's weak point, which is its belly. The monster charges again, and Jilly realizes that it will not be an easy task because the wolf is too powerful for him to sneak up on. Plus, he is getting exhausted from all the fighting and knows that if he doesn't kill the monster first, then it will be his end. His system is showing the weak point, and he realizes that he only has one chance to attack the wolf's underbelly. They both run into each other, and he lets the monster attack his shoulder, but then he takes the opportunity to stab it in the belly. His risky plan works, and he gets thousands of XP and boosts his level, which is why his wounds heal up pretty quickly and he becomes good as new. But poor Jilly does not know that this is just the beginning of his many adventures and sufferings in the game. The game notifies him that a mysterious object is waiting for him in his store, and he looks at his next challenge. Jilly has now gotten attribute points after killing a desert wolf, so he opens his inventory to get a better understanding of the game. Suddenly, all these cool weapons fly in front of him, and he realizes that he needs to level up if he wants to unlock all the advanced weapons, equipment, and appliances. He can't believe people want to level up just to unlock these things. But when he sees a skilled and attractive team of mercenaries, including offensive, defensive, magic, assassin, and service types who can meet all his needs, he realizes he has to unlock all the levels. But for now, he can only unlock daily essentials like bread and water because of his low level. He then looks at his status and finds that even if his condition is full, he is still weak and needs to increase his attributes to become stronger. So he starts to divide his points into updating his physique, strength, and agility so that he can prepare himself better for any future attacks. When all the energy courses through him, he feels himself becoming stronger and more confident. But then he sees a whole pack of desert wolves waiting for him to be their next meal. Jilly then takes out his sword and starts slashing all the big bad wolves like the dead meat they are. When he is done with his fighting, he has already gained 15 levels, which means that he can now unlock a lot from the inventory. All the fighting has now made him more excited, and he wants to explore the desert a bit before resting. That's when Jilly notices a whole pack of wolves dead on the ground, with their blood sucked up. He does not know who killed the animals, but whatever it was not human. Suddenly he notices something moving from the corner of his eye, and sees an alien stabbing wolves like kebabs on a stick. And just like a ghost, that man suddenly disappears, and Jilly tries to look for him everywhere. He starts to think that another player must be stuck inside the game as well. But just then, his system starts to warn him of impending danger, and the next thing he knows, someone is trying to attack him. He uses his sword to slay whatever comes into his vision, and a tentacle falls on the ground. Right next to it, a high-level monster called Wandering Dominator walks from the shadows. He is nothing like the wolves Jilly had just killed, and when he sees him regenerating his hand, he starts to tremble slightly from fear. The system shows that the Dominator is known for its absolute speed, and is the predator of predators who drinks monsters' blood. Jilly looks his enemy in the eye and tries to calm his nerves. But the overwhelming power coming from him is enough to make him feel like a small insect in front of the monster. The alien strikes, and my guy dodges him and tries to attack from the back, but he disappears and hits him back so hard that he flies across the desert. The poor man tries to walk off the injury, but the next thing he knows, the monster is punching him in the gut so hard that he is puking blood. Bro is confused because the monster can kill him easily, but instead he is giving him back his sword and teaching him where to hit him. But that is when he realizes that the monster is taking his sweet time playing with him because he is having fun. So one more time he swings his sword at him and gives it his all, but it backfires because he is the one to get hurt and fall on the ground while having his weapon durability decreased by 80%. He knows that the guy's speed is too high for him to even catch up. The next thing he knows, the alien is jerking him up until he is flying through the air. That's when the monster looks at the human with disgust laced in his voice. And Jilly realizes that not only can he speak, but he also has extreme hate for humans and thinks of them as pests he should kill. Just then, Jilly uses his blade to cut through his grip and slides away like a hero, saying that he is projecting his own insecurities onto him. The alien looks at his hand and then sneers that it's been hundreds of years since a human came, and now that he did, his body is coursing with excitement. Jilly agrees, because he has not felt the same level of fun in a long time. He then thinks of his family and friends who are waiting for him back home, and he knows that he cannot die in a place like this. Lightning strikes him, and it's like he has gotten new energy from the gods above. And that is true because due to his extraordinary fighting spirit, he has activated a special god's blessing, and all of his attributes have increased by 100. This makes the monster happy too, because now it looks like a challenge. Then Jilly attacks him again and again, slashing his body until blood is coming out of it, and his blade has lost all of its durability. That's when he throws his sword and starts punching the monster, knowing that once he has defeated him, he will get more power and grow stronger. But it's not too easy, because the alien uses his super speed to run and sneak attack from behind. Poor Jilly can't take cover before the alien slashes him, and says that no matter how much power he gets, he will still be a pest in front of him. Jilly can't believe that even with all the power, he still cannot defeat him. And just then, the alien starts to fly in front of him. He then uses the lightning from the sky and projects it all onto the already injured Jilly on the ground. Poor boy can feel the life slipping out of him as he realizes that he might die here. And just like that, his XP reaches 0 and he takes his dying breaths. For some reason, Jilly wakes up in a room and realizes that he is not in the desert anymore. Instead, he is in an unknown village. He thinks that he might be logged out, but the system is still there, which means that he is still in here. However, he vividly remembers the attacks of the monster killing him. So him being alive does not make sense to him. There are even injuries on his body, which makes everything more confusing just when he thinks that he is alive. The door opens, and a very hot-looking girl comes in, and is surprised to see him awake. Jilly freezes, comes back to his senses and waves at the girl. She then calls for her grandpa bully, saying that the guy is up. Poor boy thinks that he might be in a newbie village. But his questions are answered when the grandpa finally comes. Jilly tells him that he was killed and his whole body was pierced. The girl then chimes in and says that the old man found him almost gone in the desert when he went hunting. The old man lights up his pipe and says that the boy's not in some game's newbie village, nor are there any NPCs. Instead, this is the real world. Jilly can't understand them, so he shows them the system that pops up. And this worries the girl and the old man because the boy is pointing at thin air. They think that he has hurt his head and has become crazy. But Jilly continues his rant that he is stuck in the game without any communication from the outside world. He then screeches that he wants to go back. But the old man says that there is no way out because whoever enters Latinea Desert stays there forever. Jilly asks if there is no way out, then how come they came there? And the girl replies that the duo was on a mission to kill a dragon in Argama continent when they met a thunderstorm. And when they woke up, they were already in the desert, which according to legend can even trap gods. The only way out of this place is through the Kibri God's palace, but many people have already tried finding it, and they simply never came back alive. And now, after a while, people have accepted the fact that they are stuck, so now they just live their lives and wait for death. The grandpa then says that every year new people will come there, but no one has ever left the place, so the only advice he will give is that he should accept this as his reality. He then takes a turn to leave, but not before asking his granddaughter, Sally, to show him the town. Jilly does not want to believe and still thinks that he was isekai'd into the game. Just then, a new notification comes up to the system, which gives him the mission to avenge the death of the Kebri god. Apparently, he was reincarnated with Kebri god's protection, and now he is tasked with removing the seal on Kebri god. His new mission is to find the palace, defeat the monster Nabos, and release Kebri god. But it's the reward that catches his eye, and that is the key to opening the seal of the desert. Bro is lying in the field and searching through his system, trying to understand his current situation. His mind has now started to work with the possibility that he has a chance to leave the place. But then Sally calls his name, saying that she was looking all over for him. He says that he came for a walk because he wanted to be alone. But then the desert in front of him catches his eye, and he asks the girl if that is the Latinea Desert. The girl then explains that their town is surrounded by the desert because it is so big. Jilly asks her how long it will take him to find Kebri God's palace, and she asks if he actually has a plan to find it. When he does not reply, she tries to knock some sense into him, saying that the palace is just a rumor, and if he leaves, then he will definitely die. But Jilly says that he did die once, so he will do whatever it takes to return home. Sally then asks him to come to town with her, and on the way she asks if he was serious, and he replies that he was. She tries to argue, saying that the desert is filled with monsters that even Grandpa Boole doesn't dare to fight. But Zai is delusional and says that he is very strong. Just then, something mysterious appears from the sky and crashes on the ground above them. 3 men appear from the dust and say that their prey has taken the bait. Jilly coughs through all the dust and asks what is going on. Before he can get an answer, Sally comes between him and the party and uses her fire magic to block the man's blade. The man Boban looks happy to meet Sally, but she does not. Jilly asks why he is attacking them, and she explains that they are bandits who are actually scarier than the monsters because they do not hunt for their own food. Instead, they steal from other humans. Boban then takes out his shadow swords and looks at Jilly as if he is his new prey. The boy has not seen that skill, but he has no time to get answers because Boban then straight up threatens them, saying that last time Sally got away from him, but this time he will not repeat the same mistake. This only angers the girl because she flares up like a fireball and looks back at Jilly, asking him to get Grandpa as she tries to hold these bandits back. Back at the village, Grandpa is tending to his crops when he realizes that a thunderstorm is coming their way. He then starts to worry for his granddaughter, who is busy fighting the bandits. Boban is having a field day with the duo and says that there is no way he is willing to let the boy go and fetch Grandpa, but at the same time, he knows that her spells are ineffective against him, so he wants her to come with him obediently in return for Jilly's safety. Sally rejects his weird offer, and Boban takes it on his ego. Sally once again asks her new friend to get the old man because only he can fight Boban, but the boy disagrees. He explains that there is no way he is running away and leaving his new friend on the battlefield. But then Boban comes at him with insane speed and smashes his head on the tree. He says that the boy is just a piece of trash, but Jilly starts taunting him back. This triggers Boban's ego, and he says that if Jilly is so brave, then he should use his strength instead of words. So the hero grabs his wrist and twists it, saying that he is not as strong as he thinks because he was the one who started with a sneak attack instead of fighting fairly. With that, he swings at the assassin so hard to get back that he falls back, shocked that the boy was able to dislocate his wrist. He then analyzes that Jilly is quite strong because even though he added a lot of points into his attributes, he was still not able to overpower him. Then he sees the friendly interaction with Sally, and the boy and the girl then look at him to ask what he wants. The man's ego and wrist are both hurt, but he says that like all the other times, he wants Sally to be his girlfriend. But the girl is hellbent on saying no. Even Jilly finds this pretty funny. But Boban doesn't. He accuses Sally of not going out with him because of the guy, and she starts to blush and actively deny all the baseless accusations. Boban just needs an excuse to fight, so he asks Jilly to fight him like a real man instead of hiding behind a girl. He then promises that if he loses, he will not bother her again. And hearing this, a side mission emerges on Jilly's system about defeating Boban, and the reward for that was the map of the desert. This catches his interest, and he immediately agreed, as Sally looks at him with worry. Just then, Boban takes out his shadow sword and gets ready for the battle. Sally tries to ask one more time if Jilly really wants to go against someone who is known as an assassin. She then explains that people like him use the power of shadows and high speed, plus their weapons are coated with shadows and have a strong force and attack power. But it doesn't matter to Jilly, who has already died once and has lost that fear at this point. With that, they both charge at each other. As Jilly is about to hit Boban, he starts to panic about why his life turned out like this. But as long as he defeats the guy, he will at least be one step closer to leaving the hell he was in. But sadly, the shadow assassin easily dodges his swing, to the point that he laughs at Jilly's attempt at hitting him. But then he starts to charge at him, and he moves with such speed that Jilly can't even react to. This makes the assassin more cocky because the guy in front of him looks weak. But this infuriates Jilly because he can't understand why the guy isn't attacking him. Sally once again gives him a way out to get the old man. But he refuses to leave her alone. Besides, he now has ulterior motives, which he tells to Sally. But the girl does not understand and asks for more explanation, to which he replies that something is not adding up. Ever since he got in the game, all the events were illogical at first. But then, as he spent more time, he realized that someone is carefully manipulating the game. He is interrupted by Boban, who throws a sword towards him, and then starts to mock him for spacing out. But then Jilly claps back, pointing out that the assassin is the one who is not doing any attacks, so why should he be afraid of him? Apparently that is what Boban was looking for, because he explains that he does not attack an unarmed weakling, which is why he is now giving him his sword and wants to make a fair battle between men. Jilly captures it with one hand, as the guy goes on and on about how he doesn't bully people below him to impress Sally. But the girl does not care for him. Even Jilly points out his hypocrisy and says that previously he made a sneak attack on them, so he is not exactly the man he thinks he is. But when they are done trash-talking to each other, Jilly prepares himself to go against a shadow assassin for the map he so desperately wants. But it's not going to be an easy battle, and he knows it. So without missing a beat, he charges at the shadow assassin. But he is too swift jumping and attacking him. Jilly blocks his swing, but while he is busy, Sally calls him and says that there is something behind his back, and when he turns around, another clone of Boban is ready to attack him. The poor boy starts to defend himself from forces coming at him from all sides. But it's not enough because as soon as he is able to locate Boban, he is already disappearing. This even concerns Sally, because she sees Boban is able to slash Jilly on the shoulder, causing his HP to reduce. He then gives him a chance to surrender, but Jilly will never give up. He looks at his system, which gives him healing power, and using that he recovers some HP, but then this makes Boban's followers laugh at him because apparently a healer is no match to fight him. But Jilly then snaps back that Boban is scared because this healer will be able to defeat him, and this stops the assassin from turning away. Jilly then gets ready for another chance, saying he is ready for him, but so is Boban, who uses his shadow assassin power to make clones of himself. Our boy does not like this new development for some obvious reasons. So he looks at the clones closely, trying to see what is up with them. But then he realizes that the assassins rely on their clones in battle. So this means that one of the clones distracts him while the real Boban attacks him. Plus, they can also switch positions, so that is tricky for Jilly. However, Boban is still salty over our boy being sarcastic with him, so he vows that he will show him his true potential. But the boy does not really care. Instead, he charges at the clone. While Boban instructs them to have fun with their new meat, just then, one of the variants attacks the boy. But Jilly is able to block the attack using his sword, and the impact makes the assassin's blade bounce back. But Boban's clone is not done yet. So he strikes back again, and Jilly keeps on dodging his attacks and also blocking him whenever he can. But he also realizes that he is struggling at only blocking one person's attack. While there are two others left, Just then, another clone comes and tries to attack from behind, but before even a droplet of blood can fall on the ground, the boy dodges Boban's sure-hit attack like it was nothing. And that shocks everyone watching, including Boban himself. Meanwhile, Jilly realizes that he almost died again. But then his system gets crazy from all the pop-ups saying that he has unlocked many of the hidden powers at the last moment. But Jilly is not ungrateful. He now has to defeat the other two clones. But now that Boban has seen his power, he is more excited because even with new strength, he is only able to injure his clone, and now the real game has begun. With that, he orders his sword to return to him, and it flies away from Jilly's hand, and comes back to Boban. The Shadow Assassin tells him that he underestimated him and his powers at first. But now he will not make the same mistake again. Then all three clones merge their swords into two spears and smash them on the ground at one time, causing a weird shadow to form around Jilly. And from the shadow, spears start hitting the boy randomly, and he has to dodge all of them. One of the spears slashes him, and Jilly realizes that his HP has decreased and he has no weapon to fight with. And while he is busy worrying about that, Boban appears from the shadow and strikes him, saying that he is there for his life. Jilly is then engulfed in a lightning circle and flies in the air. But then lightning strikes from the sky, and Grandpa Boole arrives just in time and stops Jilly's punch with his hand. He then orders the two boys to stop fighting. Jilly shudders from all the adrenaline, but he is also mad that the old man had stopped him from giving the best punch of his life. Just then, Sally rushes up to him and asks if he is okay, to which he replies that he is. Then Grandpa asks the two kids to go back home with him because of the thunderstorm that is coming their way. But Boban does not appreciate it, and thinks that Jilly is running away from the battle after Grandpa comes to save him. The old man then turns around and warns the assassin that if he had not stopped Jilly from throwing the punch, then he would not be standing there alive. And hearing that certainty from his mouth, Boban realizes that the man was not lying. But his ego prevents him from believing it, because how can a basic level healer have the ability to kill someone so powerful like him? So he screams that that's not true, and that he would have been the one to kill him. Meanwhile, the update on Jilly's system shows that he won the challenge, and now he has the maps. Grandpa then realizes that they do not have much time before the thunderstorm, so he asks for the kids to leave again. And for some reason, Boban's assistants also believe that, so they ask for them to go too. But the assassin is too stubborn to let go, so he asks Jilly to come back to the battlefield again and again. But the boy completely ignores him because there is nothing left for him to fight for. Back at the village, Sally is tending to Jilly's wounds again because he is moving too much for her liking, and she cannot apply medicines on him like that. He then apologizes for all the trouble he has caused. But Sally is grateful and happy that someone stood up for her. Meanwhile, Jilly is busy thinking about how he can't heal up naturally but needs help. Then curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks whether Sally and Grandpa knew Boban before. And the girl replies that they both grew up together like siblings. Just then, Sally is done stitching him up and starts to leave. Jilly looks outside in the rain and thinks about his mother and how she must be panicking for him. But now that he has the map, he is hopeful that he will find God's palace and return to her very soon. He wants to leave for the journey as soon as the rain stops. But then suddenly, a new notification pops up saying that he has obtained a new key. Confused, he pulls out a golden key from the air. Apparently, during battles, he will get random boxes filled with treasure, and using the key, he can access them whenever he wants. This gives him much more hope that he will leave the cursed place soon, and he wears his jacket to start moving. But then he notices Grandpa Boole entering. The old man apologizes for not coming sooner to see him. But then he takes a good look at the young man, and Jilly says that his injuries are minor and will heal in a few days. Grandpa then says that he did not expect that he would be able to defeat Boban because he is the village's strongest assassin. Jilly says that he only did well because Boban underestimated him. But the old man knows better. He says that Boban is not only known for his physical strength but also his willpower and spirit. And he did not win because of mere coincidence. That's when he asks what went wrong with Boban. And this makes the grandpa think about his childhood. The old man starts his tale saying that he and Sally came to the desert a decade ago when it was raining too heavily. But when they passed by a house, they saw a demonic monster attacking someone. But they were too late and the monster had already killed some people. However, a kid survived, and the old man was able to save him using his lightning magic. Still, the monster survived, but ran away from there. In the end, the child, who was Boban, was left to grieve both his parents, and the old man adopted him. But ever since that day, Boban made it his life mission to find the monster and avenge his parents. And because of that obsession, he lost the good the old man had taught him. This makes Jilly wonder if even Grandpa Bowel was not able to defeat the monster, then how powerful must it have been? He is thinking about his escape plan and realizes that he is no match for all the monsters out there. That's when he turns to the old man and says that he needs to train him so that he can become strong and leave this place. But Grandpa does not care for it and ignores him. That's when Jilly insists and realizes that he made the same mistake as Boban by being impulsive. But then suddenly the old man says that the boy can meet him at the hillside. and if he can pass his test, he will be trained. Jilly perks up, saying that he will do it, and Grandpa realizes that the boy definitely has something that sets him apart from other people because of his combat abilities. And if he is strong enough, then he will be their ticket out of the cursed world. Just then, Jilly gets a notification about a daily mission, and asking him to do some exercises that look extremely tough, but since he needs attribute points, he accepts the mission. The next day, before anyone is awake, Jilly works out using a giant log and shows off his muscles and abs. Even he realizes that he likes having a challenge, and when his mission is completed, he falls to the ground exhausted. Then he starts to think about where he should put his attribute points, and decides on stamina and defense. Just then, Sally calls his name and rushes to him to give him breakfast, because she assumes that he is hungry after training for so long. Jilly then fills her in, saying that the old man has promised that he will train him once he passes a test. And this shocks Sally to no extent, but she encourages him, saying that he will surely pass it and will unlock his awakened attribute. Jilly is confused because he thinks that healing is his attribute, but Sally clarifies that being a healer is a profession given to him by God. He can still awaken his own elemental attribute based on his personal abilities. Sally then explains that her attribute is fire, Grandpa's is thunder, and Boban's is shadow. Jilly then says that he is excited because he too wants to see what his spirit is made of. Apparently, the gaming world is divided into 5 areas. One is the Latinaya Desert, which is known for trading. To the west, there is the volcanic land Megaria, hometown of dragon riders. To the north, the winterland Sesencido exists with its berserk monsters and crystals. To the east side, Bergima Forest has magical elves and other types of mythical beasts. And in the south is the Chibetic land, where dwarves live, who are known for their craftsmanship. Sally explains that according to rumor, the palace of the god is connected to the god world's endless sea, and if he passes it, then he will reach his goal. Sally now understands that the rumors might be true, and Jilly then promises that they are true and that they can leave the place. The girl smiles at him. Just then, Grandpa interrupts them and thinks that Sally has already confessed something to the boy, and the poor girl just stutters in embarrassment. The old man then turns his attention back to the boy and asks if he is ready for his test, and Jilly confidently replies that he is. With that, Grandpa then starts his speech, saying in all the races, one thing is the same, and that is the power elements, which act as the base of the world, and these include anything he can't touch or see, like light, water, or thunder. To grasp the elemental power, he must sense that power and awaken it, just like the old man can do with thunder. But the key is that he must feel it coursing through his body. With that, he touches the ground, and a portal opens up. He informs Jilly that the magic will transport him into a monster's dungeon somewhere unknown. He then gives his sword to him, saying that the boy has 3 days, and after that, he will open the gate. Jilly's task is to kill the Beast King and bring his head to him, and only then will he pass the test. But during that, he will also have to unleash his elemental strength, because only then will he be able to fight the monster. The old man then gives him a last chance to back out, but he only smiles at him, saying that he will never give up, and will surely bring back the beast's head. Then he turns and gets a notification from his system about his mission. He hits confirm, and just like that, he flies into the unknown. That's when the old man tells Sally that the monster Jilly is sent to kill has a strong defense, and only the one who has achieved his full elemental power can kill him, and the best way to awaken that power is to push his body into desperate situations. Just then, Jilly arrives at the place, and starts to roam around. He notices that the sand is black, the sky is black without any light, and the place stinks. He then opens his system again to see how he can fight a boss-level monster with his current level. So he decides that he needs to do some side missions to level up first. Just then, something tries to attack from behind, but he dodges it successfully. He realizes that he has already been spotted, and then looks at the flying monster called Dotem. Jilly then takes out the sword, knowing that it will help him in the battle, and then charges at the monster with full confidence, because he is not a newbie. He fights so hard and efficiently that he can feel the power in his bones. He slays so many monsters that he is sure they will help him level up. Somewhere, Boban is training alone and keeps on chanting that no matter how hard he tries, the practice is still not enough. He fights so hard that the rock explodes, but he cannot understand how he could not defeat a basic level healer. On top of that, even Grandpa Wubul had to use a different type of power to stop the boy, which only made him more curious about Jilly. Meanwhile, Jilly is having the time of his life killing all the monsters like they are nothing. He slays so many beasts that he reaches level 25 and gets 45 points as a reward. When he is done, the system asks him to open the medical store for 15 levels. And he gets annoyed because he does not want to spend all his earnings on one thing. But he also knows that doing that in the future will be harder, so he buys the store instantly. With that, he gets recovery and enhancement potions. And this makes him happy because it means he will be able to recover immediately in future battles. He feels like he has 2 lives now and is more confident. He now has only 2 levels left and he is hungry. So he buys some bread and realizes that Sally's buns were way nicer than these. After roaming for 2 hours, he gets bored, but he still needs to follow the map. He then starts to distribute his attribute points into increasing his physique, strength, magic, and defense skills. Back at the desert, Sally is worried about Ji and asks her grandpa if he will be okay fighting a powerful monster. The old man says that he left a mark on the sword, and if Ji is in danger, then he will get him out of there. So, Sally investigates more, and her grandpa puts down his tool to say that he found the place accidentally when he was hunting. But he refuses to explain more and then dismisses her. But Sally is smart and knows that something fishy is going on. Grandpa then takes a stroll and talks to himself, saying that he knows Ji would want to leave the place no matter what. So the only way to keep him safe is to show him the harsh reality of the world, which will make him give up on his dreams. But even though he knows that Ji cannot win, he still prays that he does kill the beast, because he too has hope in him that the boy will bring them out of the place. Meanwhile, Ji is still walking, trying to find the beast's place when someone calls for help. He turns around to see a woman and her baby running for their lives. He gets confused seeing them in such a dangerous place. And just then, the woman asks him for help. He then looks at the distance, where two giant monsters are accompanied by one smaller one, but they are all scary enough to make the woman tremble in fear. Latonia's monsters are like slow-moving tanks with very high XP and power, and this includes the 3 wild beasts standing in front of Ji. He realizes that the middle one's intellect is much higher than the other two, so he takes out the sword and gets ready to fight. But this also means that he is not too far away from the beast he is supposed to kill. He wonders how the woman and her kid got into this place, but he does not have time for answers right now because he needs to protect them. The beastman says that the boy should bow his head and surrender, but Ji knows no such words. So the monster asks his 2 bodyguards to go tear them apart, but they are nothing in front of Ji's fighting skills, and he defeats the monsters like they are flies. He had become a lot stronger after leveling up, and this made him excited. The beastman calls his other bodyguard to attack the boy, but he is too scared to fight, so he starts to run away from the battle as his boss desperately asks him to come back. But then the beastman says that he will kill the boy himself, which does not go well for him because Ji is already at his throat, threatening him to drop his weapon or else he will cut him open. He then asks why he was chasing after the woman, and the monster says that he is a servant of God and if he kills him, then he will be cursed by his god. But just then Ji cuts near his face, and the monster cries in pain. He then threatens him that his next swing is going to be way worse if he does not tell Ji where the beast's den is. Like the coward he is, the beastman then points at the mountain, and Ji realizes that the guy is not lying to him because that place does match the description of what the map is showing him. Apparently that place is the Black Rock Mountain, and while he is examining the place, the monster tries to run to eat the woman and her kid. He then uses them as bait to threaten Ji by saying that he will use his full strength, but it does not work really well because, in a second, Ji and another mysterious man dash towards him, and the beast gets so confused about where he should look. But in the end, he gets hurt from both sides and flies into the air like a frisbee. When the dust settles, Ji and the other guy look at each other, and the hero comments that the blonde has some nice moves. Apparently the guy is nice too, and that's when Ji realizes that he is not alone but is accompanied by other humans too. He asks them why they are here, and the blonde man replies that 3 days ago he and his companions were mysteriously teleported to this place, and in the chaos his companions were also kidnapped by the beastman. So he started to find them, and then found the rest of the humans. He then introduces himself as Joss, a warrior, while pointing at Filorga, an assassin, and Rachel, a healer. Ji likes those guys, so he is warm towards them. That's when the blonde asks if he knows why they were transferred to that place, but even he does not have the answer. He then notices the beastman trying to sneak away, but all the warriors surround him, and the monster looks at all of them in fear. He starts giving them empty curses. But then Ji says his real name, and the beastman stops, thinking about how he knows his name. That's when the guy says that if he wants to live, then he should answer all his questions truthfully. The monster pleads that he is already telling him the truth, but it is no use for Ji because he knows all of this already. The monster then tries to argue that he is only a lower rank in the tribe, and his only purpose is to collect humans for food for his god. This angers Ji and Joss as they look at the beastman as if they will kill him. Back at the desert, Grandpa Wubul is visiting Delktown for a meeting, when one of the chairmen asks if he has gone crazy because the old man is still believing rumors of God's palace after all these years. The guy with green hair, who is Hicks and has the wind element with the superpower of a mage, says that even if he finds the palace, there is still no way to defeat the monsters which guard the place, because the old man is hoping on a kid who has not even grasped his elemental powers yet. Grandpa listens to the guy as he warns him of the consequences of angering and disrespecting God, and says it would be easier for him to kill the kid and beg for mercy. But Grandpa has remarks of his own as he says that the god the green man is talking about can torture them and treat them as worms whenever and however he likes. The council is also not afraid of exchanging innocence for so-called peace, and in reality, they are not heroes but a bunch of weaklings only surviving by sacrificing others. Hearing this, the man starts to scream in horror and tries to threaten him with his magic. but the old man already has a thunder shield around him, and this angers him even more. The old man then leaves like a hero, saying that he cannot sit silent any longer when innocent people are being sacrificed. And if that means he has to fight God, then he will gladly do it. Hicks then starts to load his powers as well, but another council member stops him from doing so, and the Green Man is just startled. Back in the desert, Geely is standing in front of the realization that this is no longer a game for him, because all the people he has met over here are not NPCs, but living human beings, and he has to help them as well. That's when he remembers that back in his human life, he read about Egypt's ancient god, whose palace is sealed by a strong god, Rakin, and he thinks whether God Calbus's palace is near the monster's den or not. But then he looks at the coordinates and realizes that the god's palace and the den are in 2 different directions. So he starts to think whether the monster is guarding another god's place. But then he is interrupted by Joss, who asks him to head to the beast's den with the rest of the party, and Geely smiles. He then tells the boy that Rachel can create a magic barrier and enhance her elemental power so she can stay and protect the woman and her child. The girl is even determined to follow these orders. With that, they start their journey. But the Beastman warns them that if they go into the den, they will all die. But his threats do not work on Geely because the boy starts to insult the Beastman, making him scream in embarrassment. That's when Joss pulls his ropes and forces him to walk with them as he tries to find a way not to go with the party. Inside the cave, more Beastmen sit and relax as skulls of dead people lay around them. A party of monsters takes a cage full of humans towards their king and offers the food to him while waiting for his next orders. The king, who has neon green eyes, looks at the Beastmen with anger, and just then another force comes in and freezes all the monsters to death. A hero emerges in the middle and introduces himself as the great mage Engom and vows that he will free all the innocents. He has a whole army of heroes with him to take revenge on the monsters for killing all the innocents. He loads up his power and sends an ice sword blizzard towards the king, who is sitting on his throne as if nothing is happening. But the ice spears do not hit him because of a protective layer around him. This startles Engom. Suddenly, with the king's power, he is lifted up into the sky, as every other hero looks at him with helplessness, and Engom screams in agony from the magic. The king tortures him enough that the mage bursts in the sky, and the other heroes tremble in pure fear and shock. But the Beast King Sunil, who has a level 85, looks at his next meal. The low-rank Beastman looks at how easily the party of these young heroes defeats different monsters, especially Geely, who seems to be the most special to him. He thinks about where the boy dropped from, but Geely is only focused on how they are closing in on the beast's den, because all the monsters keep getting harder to defeat. He then looks at his system and realizes that he is not leveling up as fast as he hoped. Joss comes in and asks if he is still not comfortable with the intensity of the battles, because he is the first person the hero has seen who is defeating such powerful monsters without tapping into his elemental powers. He then chuckles, saying that Geely is his fated one, and offers him a job at his guild after they all leave. This gets Geely's attention. But then Joss starts talking about girls at his place, and this embarrasses him. That's when one of the party members reminds Joss that his so-called guild only has one member, and it's him, which makes Joss stumble on his words. But they don't have time to waste, so Falorga points at the cave and says that the monster's den must be there. Geely asks the Beastman for confirmation, but he sees a piece of rope and realizes that he must have run away while they were fighting. But the monster did not run away from the den. Instead, he ran into it so that he could inform the king and get rewards for his intellect. Joss stands on the edge of the cave, and from the smell realizes that they are at the right place. And with that, they all enter. They walk through all the skulls but do not meet any beastmen, and this alerts Joss. That's when they come in front of 3 different pathways and decide that they have to split into 3 ways. Joss then marks everyone's hand with the mark of the flame gate and says that if any of them meet any danger or discover any new information, then they can press it like a button and teleport to each other. Then they are separated into different caves, but before going, Joss reminds them to say a mantra he taught them if they get in any danger. Hewley runs into the cave and realizes that he needs to level up immediately, but the place does not have any beasts. He runs until finally he finds a bunch of corpse-eating ghouls munching on dead humans. He takes out his sword in happiness, but then he realizes that the monster is not alone. He just entered their cave. The beastman who ran away before goes to his king and says that 3 worms have entered his holy place, but the traps they have set for them mean that the humans will be dead in no time. It's not the case for Ji Li, who is killing all the corpse-eating ghouls like they are gnats, but he is not getting a lot of XP from them as well, and this annoys him. Yet he continues to kill, until he has killed 999 corpse-eating ghouls that have leveled him up to 14. Not only this, he obtained professional skills, including Holy Light, Annihilation Slash, and Blessings. He has the option to choose 2 out of 3 skills, and after thinking it through, he selects a combo of Blessings and Annihilation Slash. He then starts to think about his new friends and whether they are doing well or not, But then he looks at the fire mark on his hand, which has not pulsed yet, and this means that they are both safe for now. But then he shifts his attention back to the ghouls who are coming his way. Meanwhile, Joss is using his Hellflame Stomp to kill all the monsters in one go. But then he starts hearing a melody, and all the ghouls look back at a girl approaching them who has broken her shackles. She starts to sing, and Joss confronts her, saying that she must be the one who sent all the monsters to him, and the girl smiles at him. But then the earth rips open, and so many hands start to grip Joss and bring him down with them. The hero struggles and realizes that the creepy girl is now standing really close to him, ready for her meal, and Joss recoils in disgust. Poor Joss thinks that he will now probably die here. But just then, Geely arrives and in a swift move, cuts off her arms. The hands stop touching Joss, and the girl looks at the boy, shocked at how he can stop the car. The hero then throws the head of the monster towards her, saying that he was an easy kill for him. Hearing this, she starts screeching, and Joss tries to warn the boy, but all the sound waves do nothing to him. And with another swift move of his new blessings power, Ji Li kills her, saying that her voice is annoying him. Joss is affirming the boy when his hands start buzzing, and they realize it's the flame mark, which means that Filorga is in danger. Poor Filorga is fighting with a level 55 Hell Serpent, and his strength is too little for him to defend himself, let alone kill. The snake blows him away, and poor Filorga flies and hits the wall, causing blood to start gushing out of him. He too thinks that he will die in this beast's cave when, thankfully, Geely arrives and uses his sword to deflect the serpent. Geely asks his new friend how he is, but the guy is too shocked to see the strength to answer it. Joss then tends to him, and Filorga says that he has never met a monster like him before, and this makes them realize that if they meet the Beast King, then they will definitely die. But then Geely stops them from overthinking, saying that the thing that is holding them back is not the Beast King, but their own fear. He says that in order for him to leave the place, he will have to fight the Beast King and many other monsters like him, so he has to risk his life, and in doing so, he does not have time to waste on his fear. He proudly says that the fight will have to end, and when the serpent tries to strike again, all the heroes get ready to give their all in. Joss starts the attack and using his power kick, hits the snake hard. The serpent then throws fire at him, which he deflects. And this gives Filorga time to activate his elemental power and use Hand of Gizzo to grab the snake by the throat. Joss then gives the signal to Ji Li, who jumps and uses his sword to stab the snake through its armor. He causes a crack, and the protective layer is destroyed by 20%, but that is not enough. And he keeps on stabbing until he has pierced through the Hell Serpent's protective armor scale. He then starts to drag his sword and slice the snake till the very bottom. Joss and Filorga look happy seeing the serpent dying, and due to this, Geely gets a hidden weapon called the Hellflame Gauntlet. He accepts it and then looks at the flaming gauntlet in his hand. Meanwhile, Joss is confused about how Geely can get this powerful in the very little time that they have met. They then hear some noise coming from the dark corridor and find their beastman captive from before. Without wasting any time, Joss and Geely attack him, and the poor guy flies across the room, surely breaking his bones. Joss asks what he is doing in there, and he says that he was lost because the Beast King activated the traps. And that clicks for Ji Li. He continues to brawl in front of the hero, when Joss kicks him again and asks him to take them to the Beast King immediately. The Beastman takes them in front of a wall, and says a secret chant, and a giant door opens. Back in the desert, Grandpa Wubul is looking at the worsening weather, and then goes to his cupboard, where he has kept his armor. Suddenly, Bobon interrupts him, saying that he stopped being stubborn and finally saw his armor because it is his hope that they will leave the place. The old man did not sense him coming, but Bobon cleared his confusion and said that he wants to join his team, who will leave the desert together because he might fight the monster who killed his parents. He seemed determined, and even Grandpa realizes that there is no point in stopping him. Meanwhile, back at the monster den, the beastman points at the lobby towards the king, but Geely asks the whereabouts of the people who have been captured and locked. He says he knows about the place, so Geely asks his new companions to go and save his friend, but Joss takes it as an insult and thinks that Geely sees them as weak and a burden. But the boy denies that. Just then, a warning signal starts to erupt on his system, and he realizes that the boss is nearby and he only has a 10% chance of survival. This irritates him because he tried to level up before getting here, and it's still not enough. Filorga asks what is wrong with him, and Geely dismisses him, saying that he will deal with the Beast King alone while they should go save the captives. But Joss declines his pity offer, saying that he will never leave his friend alone on a battlefield. Geely tries to reason, saying that their survival rate is very low, but Joss says that it does not matter because it is time for them to return the favor of saving their lives. Geely realizes that since he was a kid, he has been solving all his issues alone, and it made him feel lonely. But now he has two new partners, and he is no longer alone. The Beastman urges the heroes to go in because he is scared his boss will kill him if he goes inside. So they all make a decision to go in themselves. But when they go inside, they see that no one is there. The throne is empty. And even the Beastman is confused because the king is usually sitting there. That's when the door behind them suddenly closes, and Florga starts feeling a magic force lifting him in the air. Both Joss and Geely look at their friend in horror, and the hero then looks back at the throne and sees Lord Sunil. Poor Florga starts coughing blood, and this startles Geely, who charges at the boss to hit him, but then he only collides with a protective shield around him. But the attack works because the magic on Florga is released, and Joss catches the kid in his hands. Meanwhile, Geely can't believe that the Beast King was able to appear at his throne without him knowing, and even deflected his attack without any effort. And Florga tries to use his powers, but he is still weak and injured, and when Joss asks him to take it slow, he urges his friend to fight. Just then, he uses his signature move to transport Joss towards the king. The man takes a huge leap. Florga strokes him with his hand, while Geely uses his sword to hit him. They all attack at the same time, but it doesn't work, and no harm was done to the Beast King. Instead, he flicks his hand, and all three heroes get hit by him. Geely realizes that the king's boss skill is covering his whole body, and then asks his companions if they are fine or not. Just then, the king stands up, and says that he wants to play with the humans because they seem interesting to him. He then disappears. And then he notices him coming in front of Joss, and before the poor man can realize, he punches him in the gut, causing him to cough blood. Joss then clocks in and uses his iron fist to attack again, but it does not work because the boss stops him in all his other attacks. The king then headbutts him, causing Joss to break his bone and fall on the ground while defeated. And with that, the monster attacks his final blow, causing everyone to scream for their poor friend. When the dust settles, the king looks down but sees that Joss's dead body is not there, and he only hits the ground. That's when he realizes that Geely has taken his friend and swept him away from him. Florga runs up to his friends, and Joss apologizes for being a burden, but Geely does not care about that. He promises them that he will deal with that bastard, so he takes out his sword. The king gets annoyed because he was having some fun with the humans, and when Geely looks bored, he tries to attack him. But like a hero, he uses the gauntlet that he was gifted before and stops his attack. Joss looks at his friend and realizes that he is very strong. Even the king is shocked because no one has ever blocked his attack, but this also excites him. With that, he uses his power and unleashes 7 hells on Geely. The boy blocks his attack again using the sword, and using the new blessings power he has, hits the king so hard that he flies in the air like a tomato, but Geely doesn't stop there. He keeps on attacking him, saying that he will avenge what he did to his friends and all the innocent people. Then he uses his annihilation slash on him, and the monster's crown flies away. But this is not it, because the king uses his power to disappear and tries to sneakily attack Geely. The boy flings his sword in that direction, but it does not matter because the king attacks him and he is thrown off his feet. He regains his power and gets ready for another attack, when the Lord Beast starts unleashing his elemental power. Suddenly, the ugly beast turns into a handsome lord, but the only difference is that he is more evil and powerful than before. With hate in his eyes, the monster flicks his hand, and a huge goat skull appears, but that's not it. Hundreds of wolves come from it, and Geely uses his hand to stop them. But that is not enough for the Beast King, who uses his skull wand to attack from behind. Geely doesn't see it coming, and his sword and blood both drip to the ground. The poor guy huffs in pain, but still stands up despite the pain. The king then uses his hand and sucks his elemental power in, and Geely thinks that this might be the end for him because he has never seen such brute power. The king has now become an advanced monster. As he attacks the already injured Geely, the poor boy goes flying away and is kicked again and again until he is left dying on the ground. The monster laughs and then further updates himself and starts being racist against humans for being so powerless and worthless. He sounds so scary that even Geely starts to accept his cruel words, and everything from his real life starts coming back to him, and he realizes that he has a lot of internal issues. That's when his mother appears in his vision, saying to a young Geely that it's time for them to go home. Suddenly, a white light comes out of Geely's almost dead body, and then his sword turns into a very cool, monstrous weapon. The Monster King looks at his opponent as he stands on his 2 feet, now healthy as before. But this time, he has a gigantic sword and updated armor and body. When Geely was almost dying, he heard someone calling his name, and when he opened his eyes, he noticed that he was no longer in the cave, but he was floating in deep outer space. Looking at his surroundings, confused, he starts believing that he is dead, but then a voice disturbs him, saying that he has not died yet. Geely looks back to see an old man floating above him, and when he uses his name, the boy gets shocked. The old angel then says that he does not know who he is either, but all he knows is that he has been in this place for thousands of years. But then a voice told him that someone would bring him out of the place, and that person is Geely. The boy does not have time for all the chit-chat, so he says he needs to get out of there as fast as he can. But then the old man gives Geely his hand, asking him to be his master. The man then explains that according to the voices, he can only get out of the place if someone becomes his master, so he is practically begging him to do so. Geely takes pity on him and says that if he needs to get out of this place, he'll do it. And with that, he shakes the angel's hand. Suddenly, electricity starts coursing through him, and Geely feels weird dark energy seeping into him. He then transforms back into the Monster King's den, where he realizes that the old man was not lying to him, but now he can feel the energy in his body. And that's when he gets the notification that he has awakened the element of chaos. Even he gets shocked to see it and realizes that the old man must be his elemental power. The Monster King gets shocked because for him, just a few seconds ago, the kid was as good as dead. But now he seems to have become more powerful than before. Even Geely knows that because his system tells him that due to unlocking the elemental power, all of his powers have been amplified. He then looks at the old man's sword and realizes that it has also gotten its final form. With new confidence in hand, he starts his attack again and charges up to the Beast King. The monster is cocky, but then Geely bursts his defense bubble like it's nothing. The king tries to attack again with all his might and power. But with just one chaotic burst slash from the boy, the monster flies away like a fly. He does manage to scratch Geely, but that does not help the king's case because he then uses his elemental power to obliterate him. Within microseconds, the boss Sunil is killed, and Geely receives a message on his system that he has fulfilled his mission. He even gets a black treasure chest as a reward. It's warm and sunny in the Latonia desert, and Boban and Grandpa are using this time to plant rice, while Sally is wondering about her new friend and his safety. That's when the old man says that if Geely does not return today, he will go out and look for him. But just then the ground starts to shake, and a portal opens. When the wind does go down, Sally and Boban look at Grandpa for answers, who replies that it was a shockwave that is released when a powerful monster dies in the desert. This means that Geely has killed the boss and has found his elemental power. Back at the beast's den, the weak beastman looks at his dead boss with disbelief. Even Falorga and Joss can't seem to understand what just happened. They look at Geely and wonder how he was able to get his elemental power and how he was able to kill the monster so quickly. Falorga then asks what the boy is thinking about, and Geely replies that he needs to check on all the prisoners while they both rest due to their injuries. He then turns to the beastman and asks him to show him the way, and the poor beast instantly replies. But Geely is now in a trance of his own because he has started to believe that him coming here was no mistake. That's when suddenly he starts feeling something. And just like that, he transports back to the desert with the help of Grandpa Wubul, but before he can say anything to him, he collapses from exhaustion and wakes up to see a woman hovering before him, asking how long he wants to sleep. Geely instantly recognizes his mom and desperately hugs her, saying he missed her. The woman, who was actually Boban, interrupts, saying, and Geely straightens himself up real quick. Boban then gives him his food and says that they will have their duel when everything settles down. With that, he marches out of the room, while Geely looks at his hand and then tries to remember what happened to his new companions. That's when his system pings again and he remembers the Beast King chest. He then takes out the key that he got when he defeated Boban, and luckily it fits. The pop-ups on his screens show that he has received a lot of gifts, including Lord Sunil's Ring of Protection and a legendary hidden item which is an egg. Geely thinks it is for him to eat, when suddenly the egg starts to crack and he thinks that he might be getting a new pet. But then a baby erupts from the shell and starts calling Geely Papa. The poor boy gets frightened because he has no idea what he has gotten himself into. Geely is annoyed because who would get a kid as a reward in a chest? So he tries to open the menu to get to know what this means, but the system tells him that he needs to upgrade first. This irritates him further because now he realizes that the kid is attached to him, and he does not even know why the baby keeps calling him Papa. He picks up the kid like a vegetable and then says that he is not his dad, and he cannot keep him because he has more important stuff to do. So he will give him to Grandpa Wubul and Sally for safekeeping. But this hurts the little kid's feelings, who starts to cry. No matter what Geely does, he still cannot make him stop crying. That's when his system shows a warning saying that he is punished for hurting the small kiddo. The menu starts its countdown, as Geely can't even comprehend what is happening to him. Suddenly, Geely realizes that he is not at Grandpa's house anymore, instead is at a very cold desert. He looks at the kid and tries to reassure him that he will not abandon him, and he's just scared of taking care of another life. But it's no use because when Geely turns around, there is a level 40 monster looking at him, and the boy gulps, because he is assigned a new mission to kill all the monsters in the next 30 minutes, or else he will die. This irks him, but then the monster lifts his leg to attack, and he has no option but to defend the baby and himself. He then looks at the baby and says that he is not allowed to die, and then activates his elemental power and takes out his special sword. As expected, he transforms into his final form and gets serious as a little kid rejoices because his papa is so cool. Meanwhile, back in the desert, Grandpa Wubul is walking towards Jili's room when Boban interrupts him, asking if he has gathered people to go search with them for God's place. But the old man replied that the situation is worse than he had thought, because people believe all the lies and rumors and would rather not try and get out of this place. Boban then gets really angry and says that if people won't help them, they can just go alone for the mission. But the old man knows that the monsters outside this place are much worse, and they won't last very long. With that, he ends the conversation and asks him to come look at Jili. That's when Sally arrives as well, and joins them to see what elemental power Jili has awakened. She cannot wait for it and starts running towards the room, and Boban looks at his lifelong crush running towards to see another man with jealousy. On the other hand, Jili has successfully defeated many animals, but it's still not enough, so he is on a slashing spree, killing everyone who comes in his way.